You can't wake up every morning doing the same thing, thinking the same way, and expect your life to transform. Change don't come from wishing. Change comes from discipline, consistency, and the hunger to rewrite your story. Every single day is a new page, but most people repeat the same chapter. If you want a new outcome, you gotta change the script. This ain't about luck, it's about mindset. Watch this every day until your habits align with the life you say you want. The way you start your day is one of the most overlooked secrets to success. Most people open their eyes in the morning and immediately hand over their energy to distractions. They reach for the phone, scroll through feeds, check notifications, and let the world set the tone before they even take their first step out of bed. That small action may seem harmless, but it sets off a chain reaction that can decide whether your day moves with focus or falls into chaos. The truth is, your mornings are sacred. The first hour of your day is not just another 60 minutes. It is the foundation that shapes your energy, your mood, your focus, and your ability to win for the rest of the day. If you start sloppy, you carry that same scattered energy into every task. If you start strong, you carry momentum that makes everything else flow easier. When you wake up, you need to remember that your mind is most impressionable. It is like fresh soil, open and ready for seeds to be planted. If you plant negativity, distractions, or chaos, that's exactly what will grow throughout your day. But if you plant clarity, gratitude, and vision, you will notice how doors seem open more smoothly, how your focus sharpens, and how your patience with challenges increases. You don't need to copy someone else's morning routine to win. It doesn't have to be complicated or look perfect. It just has to be intentional. For some people, it's prayer and connecting with God. For others, it's meditation or deep breathing. For some, it's journaling or reviewing their goals. What matters is that you start your day by centering yourself, by giving direction to your thoughts instead of letting the world drag you in every direction. When you train yourself to take control of your mornings, you will notice that your productivity levels rise. Tasks that used to feel overwhelming start to flow more naturally because you already built momentum. You begin to feel less reactive and more proactive. Instead of being tossed around by circumstances, you create your own rhythm. Imagine two people starting the day. One wakes up and spends the first 30 minutes scrolling through negative news, gossip, and distractions. By the time they get moving, their mind is already clouded. The other wakes up, drinks some water, stretches, spends 10 minutes visualizing their goals, and writes down 3 things they are grateful for. Who do you think is more prepared to conquer the challenges ahead? The difference isn't luck, it's structure. And that structure is built in the first hour of the day. Once you learn to start with intention, the next lesson is understanding the value of time. People often talk about money like it's the most important resource, but the truth is money can always be replaced, time cannot. Every second that passes is gone forever, never to return. This is why time must be treated as the most valuable currency you have. Too often people act as if they have an unlimited supply, wasting hours on meaningless activities, conversations, and habits that bring no progress. The most dangerous trap you can fall into is believing that tomorrow is guaranteed. You can't keep putting off your dreams, your discipline, and your growth, assuming that the right time will eventually come. The right time is now, because later is a lie. When you respect your time, your entire approach to life changes. You start analyzing who and what deserves your energy. You no longer entertain conversations that add no value. You don't allow people to drain you with negativity or distractions. You stop saying yes to everything and start saying yes only to what aligns with your vision. Think of it like this: every time you give your time away to something unproductive, you are spending the most expensive currency you own. Would you hand out $100 bills carelessly to anyone who asks? Then why do so many people hand out hours of their life like they are worthless? Time is far more valuable than money, yet most people treat it as if it has no worth. The people who create real success and build lasting legacies all understand the value of time. They guard it, they invest it, and they multiply its impact. This doesn't mean you never rest or never enjoy yourself. It means you rest intentionally, you recharge with purpose, and you make sure that even your downtime contributes to your overall growth. For example, instead of mindlessly scrolling for 2 hours, you could use that time to read, learn a skill, connect with someone who inspires you, or work on your health. Each choice compounds over time. A single wasted hour may not seem like much today, but when repeated daily, it becomes years of lost potential. Respecting time also means you have to eliminate excuses. Excuses are thieves that disguise themselves as reasons. People will say they don't have time to chase their dreams, but those same people find time to binge shows, gossip, and scroll endlessly. The truth is, you make time for what you value. If your dream truly matters to you, you will find hours to work on it. If your health matters, you will create time to exercise. If your peace matters, you will carve out moments to rest. Excuses are easy to make, but they cost you the life you could have lived. Once you begin respecting time, you'll notice how your urgency changes. You no longer push things off because you understand the weight of each moment. You move with purpose because you know tomorrow is not promised. You stop tolerating what wastes your energy because you know the clock is always running. And when you combine intentional mornings with respect for your time, you set yourself apart from the majority. Most people live reactive lives, constantly responding to problems and distractions. You, on the other hand, live with intention and urgency, building every day with focus and clarity. Most people wait for motivation before they move. They sit around waiting to feel inspired, waiting for the perfect mood, waiting for a spark to ignite their drive. The problem is motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. Some days you feel on top of the world, ready to conquer everything. Other days you wake up heavy, tired, uninspired. If you depend on motivation alone, your progress will always be inconsistent. This is why discipline is more powerful than motivation. Discipline is the force that keeps you going when the spark fades. It's the system you build around your goals that makes showing up automatic whether you feel like it or not. Think about an athlete who trains for the championship. There are days when their body aches, when exhaustion is louder than inspiration. If they only trained when motivated, they would never reach elite levels. What separates them is discipline, the commitment to show up and put in the work regardless of feelings. This principle applies to every area of life. If you want to build wealth, you must be disciplined with money. If you want health, you must be disciplined with your body. If you want growth, you must be disciplined with your mind. Motivation may get you started, but discipline keeps you consistent, and consistency is what creates transformation. Discipline means building habits so solid that they carry you even when your energy is low. It's about creating systems that make success inevitable. For example, if you want to read more books, don't wait until you feel motivated to pick one up. Set a time each day where you commit to reading, even if it's just 10 pages. Over weeks and months, those pages compound into knowledge. If you want to build financial security, don't wait until you feel like saving. Automate the process, make it part of your routine, so that no matter what, you are consistently putting something aside. Discipline is the bridge between desire and achievement. Without it, even the strongest dreams remain trapped in your imagination. The beauty of discipline is that it builds momentum. At first, it feels uncomfortable, like you're forcing yourself. But over time, the actions you repeat become second nature. You stop battling with whether or not to do them because they are now a part of who you are. That's when you move from relying on temporary motivation to living in permanent progress. Discipline frees you from the roller coaster of emotions and puts you in control of your direction. When you learn to lean on discipline, you stop making excuses, you stop waiting for the perfect time, and you start building a life brick by brick, day by day, regardless of circumstance. But to fully embrace discipline, you must also cut off distractions and noise. Distractions are the silent killers of progress. They don't always show up as obvious enemies. Sometimes they disguise themselves as harmless habits, conversations, or opportunities. But in reality, they pull you away from your focus, stealing minutes that turn into hours, hours that turn into months, and months that become wasted years. Noise comes in many forms. It's the endless opinions of people who don't live the life you want, the gossip that adds no value, the negativity that clouds your vision, the entertainment that consumes more time than it should. If you don't control your environment will control you. The mind is like a garden. If you don't protect it, weeds grow without permission. Distractions are weeds, and if you allow them, they will choke out your potential. Protecting your focus means you must set boundaries. Boundaries with your time, with your energy, with your access. You don't need to answer every message. You don't need to attend every event. You don't need to keep every relationship. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table if their presence takes you further from your vision. Many people lose years chasing validation, trying to please everyone, or allowing the noise of critics to paralyze their actions. But greatness is never built by those who let outside voices drown out their inner voice. Cutting off distractions doesn't mean isolating yourself completely. It means being intentional about what you consume and who you surround yourself with. If you fill your day with negativity, don't be surprised when your outlook becomes negative. If you spend hours comparing your life to strangers online, don't be surprised when gratitude disappears. But if you feed your mind with learning, inspiration, and strategies for growth, your perspective sharpens. If you surround yourself with people who are moving forward, your standards rise. The energy you allow becomes the energy you live with, and the energy you live with shapes your results. One of the strongest ways to cut through noise is to create silence. Silence gives you space to hear your own thoughts, to reflect, to strategize. In silence, you gain clarity that constant noise hides. Spend time away from screens, away from endless chatter, and notice how your creativity begins to flow. Notice how your priorities become clearer. Noise is addictive, but silence is powerful. It sharpens your intuition and reconnects you with your purpose. When you combine discipline with the elimination of distractions, you create unstoppable momentum. Discipline keeps you consistent, and cutting off noise keeps you focused. Together they form the foundation of any great achievement. Most people never reach their full potential not because they don't have talent or dreams, but because they lack discipline and they tolerate too many distractions. If you master these two, you place yourself among the rare few who can truly build the life they envision. The people you choose to keep close will either push you forward or hold you back. Success is rarely built in isolation. While it requires self-discipline and personal focus, the environment you operate in has a powerful influence on how far you can go. If your circle is made up of people who constantly complain, settle for less, and resist growth, that energy rubs off on you. Over time, you begin to adopt the same habits, the same attitudes, the same limits. But if your circle is filled with people who challenge you to aim higher, who support your vision, who hold themselves to a standard of progress, then that energy elevates you. Your circle acts like a mirror, reflecting back the standards you are willing to accept for yourself. If you want greatness, surround yourself with greatness. Being intentional about your circle does not mean you need to abandon everyone who isn't at the level you want to reach. It means you need to be conscious of how much influence you allow into your life. You can love people from a distance without letting them control your direction. Protecting your space is not selfish, it's necessary. When you let the wrong energy linger, it drains your motivation and blurs your focus. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while carrying people who refuse to move. At some point, you realize their weight is stopping you from reaching the top. Growth requires hard choices, and sometimes that means limiting your time with those who refuse to grow. The right circle inspires you through their actions, not just their words. They don't just talk about dreams, they move toward them. They don't settle for mediocrity, they strive for mastery. When you're surrounded by that type of energy, it forces you to level up. You no longer feel comfortable being stagnant, because the standard around you is movement. Being in the right environment changes what you think is possible. What once seemed out of reach becomes normal because you see others achieving it. That's the power of association. If you're in rooms where everyone is speaking about opportunities, investments, health, and vision, your mind automatically begins to expand. But if you're in rooms where gossip, negativity, and excuses dominate, then your mindset shrinks to match it. Your circle also plays a role in accountability. When you are around people who are serious about their goals, they won't let you slack without calling it out. They remind you of the promises you made to yourself. They don't just celebrate your wins, they challenge you during your struggles. Accountability is uncomfortable, but it is also necessary for growth. Without it, you risk drifting into bad habits unnoticed. With it, you stay sharp and aware of your direction. Surrounding yourself with growth-minded people means surrounding yourself with accountability, inspiration, and support. Those three things are fuel for the long journey of success. But while your circle shapes your energy, your journey still requires patience and relentlessness. Too many people quit because they don't see results fast enough. They expect success to come overnight, and when it doesn't, they assume they're failing. The truth is, success is never instant. Every overnight success story you hear has years of unseen work behind it. Patience means understanding that great things take time to build. It means not rushing the process, not comparing your timeline to anyone else's, not giving up because the results aren't immediate. Patience is knowing that seeds take time to grow, and that every small action you take compounds into something greater over time. Relentlessness, on the other hand, is about never stopping. It's about keeping the pressure on even when the results are invisible, even when the obstacles are heavy, even when the temptation to quit is strong. Relentlessness is the refusal to settle, the refusal to pause your progress because of temporary setbacks. It's the mindset that no matter how long it takes, no matter how many times you stumble, you will not stop moving forward. Patience and relentlessness work together like two sides of the same coin. Patience stops you from rushing, while relentlessness stops you from quitting. When you combine patience with relentlessness, you become unstoppable. You no longer measure your progress only by quick wins. You see the bigger picture. You understand that every failure is part of the process, every delay is part of the journey, every obstacle is shaping you into someone stronger. This is what separates those who eventually reach their vision from those who give up too early. The impatient ones quit when results don't come fast. The relentless ones stay, adapt, and keep going until success has no choice but to appear. This mindset is what makes the marathon different from a sprint. A sprint is about speed, about burning all your energy quickly. The marathon is about endurance, about consistency, about making sure you have enough drive to finish the race no matter how long it takes. In life, those who treat success like a sprint burn out, get discouraged, and fall behind. But those who treat it like a marathon pace themselves, stay committed, and eventually outlast everyone else. Patience gives them peace in the waiting, and relentlessness gives them strength in the pushing. When you're surrounded by the right circle, patience becomes easier because you see others walking their journey too. You don't feel alone, you don't feel behind, because you understand that everyone's growth has its own timing. And when you're relentless, your circle feeds that energy back to you. reminding you not to quit when it feels tough. These two principles are not just concepts, they are practices you must live daily. Every time you choose consistency over comfort, every time you refuse to let a delay discourage you, every time you rise after falling, you are training yourself in patience and relentlessness. Over time, that training builds resilience, and resilience is the armor of greatness. Chasing money will only take you so far, but building ownership will change your life forever. Too many people confuse income with wealth. They believe that a high paycheck automatically means financial security. But the truth is, income alone can disappear the moment your job, your hustle, or your energy disappears. Ownership is different. Ownership creates freedom because it builds something that continues to pay you, serve you, and grow even when you're not actively working. Ownership can mean investing in property, starting a business, creating intellectual property, or building assets that appreciate over time. It shifts you from being controlled by money to being in control of it. When you only focus on income, you are essentially trading time for money. And no matter how high that trade is, it is limited because your time is limited. Ownership breaks that cycle. It allows you to build something that outlives your hours, something that works for you instead of the other way around. The wealthiest people in the world understand this principle deeply. They don't just look for paychecks, they look for equity. They don't just work for others, they create platforms, systems, and investments that keep paying long after the initial effort. That's the power of ownership. But ownership doesn't start with massive investments or grand opportunities. It starts with a shift in mindset. It's about asking yourself how you can turn your efforts into assets. If you're creating, can you own your work instead of selling it off? If you're working a job, can you use the income not just for spending, but to invest into something that builds your independence? Every time you choose ownership, you are building leverage, and leverage is what allows you to scale your impact and your wealth beyond your own hours of labor. Ownership gives you control over your destiny. It frees you from the constant chase of paychecks and places you in the position of authority over your future. Ownership also creates legacy. When all you have is income, it disappears with you. But when you own assets, you build something that can be passed down, something that provides security for your family, something that impacts generations. That is why ownership is not just about money, it is about freedom, stability, and power. It means you're no longer living in survival mode, constantly worrying about the next paycheck, but instead moving in creation mode, focused on building long-term impact. Ownership is the bridge between working for a living and creating a life that keeps giving. But ownership alone is not enough if your life is consumed by pressure. Pressure is what happens when you live by timelines and expectations set by other people. It's the weight of comparison, the anxiety of trying to match someone else's path, the stress of chasing an image that was never yours to begin with. Pressure suffocates creativity, drains energy, and makes even the most talented people lose their way. To live a truly successful life, you must trade pressure for purpose. Purpose is your anchor. It's the reason you wake up, the reason you push forward, the reason you stay consistent even when things get hard. When you live by purpose, you no longer feel the need to constantly measure yourself against others. You move at your own pace, guided by your own vision. Living with purpose means defining success on your own terms. It means asking yourself what impact you want to make, what values you want to live by, and what legacy you want to leave behind. Purpose-driven living transforms every challenge into a lesson, every setback into growth, every failure into feedback. You no longer see obstacles as reasons to quit, but as tests that shape you for what's coming. This is what makes purpose stronger than pressure. Pressure is external, placed on you by society, culture, or other people's expectations. Purpose is internal, born from your own clarity and conviction. When you live by purpose, you don't crumble under the weight of comparison because you are too focused on your own lane. Purpose also brings peace. When you're only driven by pressure, even success feels empty. You may achieve what others consider impressive, but inside you feel unfulfilled because you weren't chasing your truth. Purpose removes that emptiness. It aligns your goals with your heart, making the journey as meaningful as the destination. You start to enjoy the process instead of just chasing the result. You begin to see how every step, even the difficult ones, are part of something bigger. This mindset doesn't just make you more resilient, it makes you unstoppable because you are no longer motivated by fear of failure, but by love for your mission. When you bring together ownership and purpose, you create a foundation for true freedom. Ownership secures your external world, giving you control over your finances, your assets, and your future. Purpose secures your internal world, giving you clarity, peace, and direction. Together they form a balance where you're not just surviving, but thriving. You are building structures that last while also living a life that feels meaningful. You are no longer chasing temporary highs or external validation, but walking in alignment with something deeper. Living like this requires courage, because both ownership and purpose demand responsibility. Ownership requires you to take risks, to invest, to commit to building instead of just consuming. Purpose requires you to say no to paths that don't align, even if they look appealing on the surface. But when you embrace that responsibility, you step into a rare level of freedom, the kind that allows you to create not only wealth but also peace, not only success but also significance. That combination is what separates a life of pressure and survival from a life of impact and fulfillment. Life will always test your patience, your vision, and your ability to stay focused on what really matters. The difference between those who just dream and those who actually build is how they respond to these tests. You've learned that mornings set the tone, that time is your most valuable currency, that discipline carries you further than motivation, and that cutting off distractions protects your growth. You've seen how the right circle can elevate you, how patience and relentlessness are both required to endure the marathon, how ownership creates freedom, and how living by purpose shields you from the weight of pressure. All of these are not just ideas, they are principles to live by, and if you take them seriously, they can transform the way you move through this world. Every day is another chance to choose differently, to move with intention, to protect your energy, and to build a life that reflects who you really are. The journey will not always be easy, but that's the beauty of it. Every obstacle is shaping you, every delay is teaching you, and every victory is showing you that your work has meaning. Keep building, keep growing, and keep walking with clarity. The marathon continues for those who refuse to quit. Thank you for watching, thank you for your energy, and thank you for being part of this journey. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and remember that your vision is worth the work.